I didn't do it. How about you?
Welcome everybody. Let's go ahead and try to get started here. My name is Frank Darr. I'm the Vice President of Round Rock Preservation, our local consultant group. This event is done quarterly. Our Lunch and Learn series is done quarterly in cooperation and conjunction with our good friends at the City of Round Rock Historic Preservation Office. We have them quarterly. Before we get started, I didn't get a chance to put a PowerPoint together just about some local things that's happening around town today. Our town is always growing and moving. So I'll put together a poster board, just like third grade. However, really interesting things happening in town today. Right here, you can take a look at it later when you get a little closer to it. The Palm Valley Lutheran Church. Now, we don't have any activity with them. Palm Valley Lutheran Church, founded in 1894, is going extensive renovations right now. The entire steeple is covered with a scaffold, and they're doing a lot of work on the exterior of the church. The Sampson House right here, before the year is out, we are working to have new signage on the Sampson House located next door to the Stagecoach Inn. The Washington Anderson Mansion, many people are not familiar with it, but it's a very, very beautiful and historic place. It's recently been vacated by the Chamber of Commerce. It's going to be repurposed, hopefully open to the public before long. The interior has been refurbished. It's a wonderful piece of property. Not on the sign right here, directly behind us, Lake Creek pathway. It's just now opened up. There's a bridge right behind us. If you like to walk and bike, recommend you go ahead and look at that. It's really an improvement to our city trail system. Of course, the Stagecoach Inn, 1848. What we're really happy about is up in this right-hand corner, just this week, our founder, Shirley Marquette, found this artifact for us. It is the original jail cell that was built in the original jail in Round Rock. We think it was in the 1880s, just before the turn of the century. We were able to salvage that, and that's now in the collection at the Rice Crossing General Store, located in Pioneer Village at Old Settlers Park. So it's part of the OSA collection over there. It's really a wonderful find for us. Very interesting. And heavy duty. Nobody's going to get out of that yet. And over here, these dilapidated houses, we're thrilled to find that they're being decommissioned and demolition has started on them. You wonder why historic preservationists are not happy about demolition. It's because it's going to allow us to have parking for the Stagecoach Inn and the associated parks all the way around to the Round Rock and even Memorial Park. The whole area is a real bonus to the community to have that done. And lastly, we have a project that we've just started. We're taking a look at. There's a very, very poor shaped family cemetery called the Gansert Cemetery. It's abandoned. We have been trying for a year to locate the families. They are not to be found in the community any longer. And it's sadly been vandalized. Some pieces have been stolen, and it's in bad shape. We're looking at taking a cleanup project on that at least, at the very least. So.
What was the name of the family? What's the name of the family?
Ganzer, G-A-N-Z. Let me do it right. G-A-N-Z-E-R-T.
It's a German family.
Yes, most of the tombstones are in German.
Yeah.
What's left of them.
And where's it located?
So, that's what's happening around town at the moment. Okay. Also, I should mention, you probably all know this if you've been downtown, the lawn underneath the water tower, the Johnson building, may know it as the building that had the old traditional gas station, gas pumps in front of it, has been mostly demolished. The facade on the front is being kept. It's going to be refurbished by the city and put a couple of restrooms in the back of it. It's going to be a good thing. So there's a lot happening there downtown. My pleasure to introduce Pamela Anderson. Pamela serves as Executive Director of the Texas Brazos Trail Region. She champions the connection and strategic partnerships that advance heritage tourism and economic development while promoting preservation initiatives. With more than 33 years of experience in tourism, community development, heritage preservation, she is dedicated to safeguarding, sharing the rich stories of the Brazos Trail region of Texas through strong alliances with local organizations and historic sites, which is why she's here today. Pamela thrives on linking communities' unique histories with visitors, creating meaningful experiences to inspire and educate. Devoted heritage traveler, she actively seeks out historic designations with the stories that define them, leading and celebrating the Texas Brazos Trail region as a place where proud residents and inspired travelers connect through history. Take it away.
Thank you to Frank. Thank you to Round Rock Preservation and the City of Round Rock and the Baca Center here for inviting me to come and talk and share a little bit and hopefully have some takeaways for you today, some nuggets of history. And on my bio, since I'm local, I didn't add in there for this one, but I'm a Round Rockite. I've been here for about 20 years with my family. My husband and I raised our boys here. They're now graduated through high school and been involved with the school district and also with the Historic Preservation Commission. And always happy to come and talk with this group about some travel information and all. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So howdy everyone. Before we dive in, I want to begin to tell a little bit about myself to kind of preface what I'll share with you today. I'm not a historian by trade. I'm a long-served tourism professional, as Frank had mentioned, and over time I've grown deeply interested and almost personally invested in visible places and the stories behind them, including in my own hometown of Round Rock. So what sparked that interest was the simple realization that every town has a reason for being where it is. The roads didn't just appear by accident, communities didn't form randomly, and people arrived with skills, tradition, foodway, faith, and language, and those elements quietly shape Texas as we know it today. On today's journey, we're going to explore two interconnected stories. First, who came to Texas, and in this area, 5 European settled communities that profoundly shaped Central Texas in the mid-century. I'm going to cover, just a couple of them due to the time today, but I can come back for more. And then second, how they moved through Texas. The stagecoach routes So that's going to be kind of the period of time I'm going to focus on today, and the historic ends that connected these communities, making it possible for these families that came from the Europe area, the European countries, and that they brought their families, and not just to settle and do farming, but also to be connected with others and with their culture and their families that all were coming over from a specific country of Europe. So from settlement to celebration, we'll explore the layers of Central Texas, which is my focus today, and places that remain visible and visitable today. All right, so I'm here today not as a historian, but as someone like you, curious, engaged, and eager to explore places that help us understand the Texas story more deeply, from prehistoric cultures, indigenous tribe inhabitants, Spanish missions, Mexican governance, the Republic of Texas, and into modern Texas. These layers are still visible if we know where to look, and I'm hoping that you'll have some takeaways on that today. I represent the Texas Brazos Trail region, part of the Texas Heritage Trails program, an award-winning initiative of the Texas Historical Commission. Although I'm not a staff member of the Texas Historical Commission, it is a nonprofit, and it's one of the 10 heritage trail regions in Texas as a nonprofit promoting heritage tourism. I represent that group, and also I'll just raise your hand over here is Sharon Whitaker. She's a local Round Rock Historic Preservation Commissioner. She's also serves on our board of directors for the Texas Brazos Trail region as an executive and treasurer for our group. So the program encourages regions to partner, preserve, and promote Texas historic and cultural resources like the ones that Frank mentioned today, and strengthening local economies through heritage tourism. So our region, the Brazos Trail region, and I have some takeaways today, has, we represent 18 counties in Anderson, Texas. I'm not talking about today because it was named after me, but I'm just kidding there. And Round Rock, because we're here locally, that we wanted to probably hear something about your community you may not know, and then Salado. So, okay, so let's begin with the first part of our journey, European settlements. In the early 19th and 20th century history in Texas, about who came and how they moved and how they connected and why they stopped and why that still matters for us today. They arrived in the mid-19th century, drawn by opportunity and promise, building communities that endure. And they didn't just settle, they organized, they built institutions, and they encouraged other families to come from the European countries. And they were, what was very important, and you can still see today, that they were also interested in preserving their identity. So we'll talk a lot about that today. All right, so we're gonna start, ironic, like a lot of people when I talk about this, they're like, well, I didn't know there was an Italian settlement in, and really there was, and I didn't know, and so, but when I say when I learn, I share. So the Italian settlers came to Texas later than some other European groups, but I'm going to start in the southeastern part of the Brazos Trail region and then kind of move through Round Rock and go north, primarily between the 1880s and the 1920s. And this was a Sicilian wave that would help shape the Brazos County, where we know Bryan, College Station, that area of Texas, not too far from about an hour and a half. These settlers were drawn by the Blackland Prairie, soil and opportunity. They brought their skills of agriculture and they farmed the Brazos Bottoms, forming a lasting impact on agriculture and landscape in that area, and it continues today. Many were skilled in trades that left subtle, lasting marks and built on that built environment, and they brought with them strong traditions that shaped the communities in that area, including their faith. The Roman Catholic, they were Roman Catholic, and multi-generational families were coming in with them, and a strong sense of community and tradition, and it still lasts today. And here's something remarkable: by the 1900s, Sicilians made up 60% of the 5,000 residents in Bryan. So here today you can see this heritage reflection in local surnames, church communities, food traditions in downtown Bryan, and growing interest in documenting Italian history at the Carnegie History Center there on Main Street in Bryan. And this heritage is celebrated in this way. So at the city of Bryan, they put together in recent years a Sicilian heritage with Festa Italiana, a lively downtown Italian festival with music for the whole family, Italian cuisine, pasta eating contest. I'm probably not saying it right, but I call it bocce ball. Somebody can help me correct that if I'm not saying it right, or that's the Texas way of saying bocce ball competitions with big bragging rights, and all the things, all the proceeds for this go to scholarships to help students, so that's for a good cause. So when you attend the event, you're not just watching history, you're participating with the Italian and Sicilian families that once decided to make that home over a century ago. So it's flying there. I'll just throw some papers around. All right, so I'm going to jump over to another area. The Swedish settlers arrived in Central Texas starting in the 1830s, led by pioneer like Sven Magnus Svensson and the Palm family, which many of you have probably heard about or seen a building or a roadway named after. So over time, they created close-knit farming community here in this area. So these settlers were seeking religious freedom and agriculture opportunity, and they focused both in the Blackland Prairie soil. There's going to be a common theme through this talk here of Central Texas. That Blackland Prairie soil was very much an attracting feature for the migration from Europe. In Round Rock and the surrounding areas, these settlers built communities anchored by Lutheran churches, which became center not just for faith, but for education and social life. So Swedish Texans emphasized education. They founded Trinity University, or Trinity College, in 1906. And it's now known today as Texas Lutheran University in Seguin. There's a historic marker just down east of Main Street. So the Swedish Texans emphasized those kind of things with the education, church life as the center of community, kind of a common thread here, and then cooperative farming that helped families support one another for survival. And from the 1870s through the 1910s, thousands of Swedish families kind of cultivated the fertile Central Texas profile and prairie. All right, so let's see. Oh, I think I jumped ahead. I might have hit a button there. So,
Yeah, that's one drawing.
it was just on there.
We didn't see those.
No, well, I've got it there somewhere, so let's see, I'm gonna jump around, maybe it got there.
There.
There we go. Okay, so, sorry about that. But this, last year, the Williamson Museum, hopefully you've been there, and if not, you need to go. They've got great exhibits. They hosted a Swedish candlelight Christmas to celebrate the Swedish traditions, festive music, the storytelling that connects the families with their Swedish heritage, and hands-on crafts. So it's another example of how heritage isn't just preserved in buildings and documents, it's lived through celebrations and community gathering, and will continue. So thank goodness for our museums, both at the local and the county levels. So, all right, so let's see, I might just go back, so that was there, maybe it was there, so. Okay, so I'm gonna go on up, moving up the I-35 corridor, but the Scottish settlers to Bell County and beyond, that area, began in the mid-19th century. Highland roots shaped the village of Salado, which was officially founded in 1859 by Scottish settlers seeking land through the Mexican land grant program. When this was all kind of governed by Mexico. The Robertson Scottish colony played a crucial role in developing the area, and instrumental in Texas, as Robertson was the first Robertson, the father. He was one of the signers of the Texas Declaration of Independence. So there's some important things happening, but they received land, this much like kind of parallel to the very well known in history books and all, but the Austin, Moses and then Stephen F. Austin colony. So, but it's one of the, in Salado, again, education, they built, if you haven't been up on the hill to Salado College, it was the first non-denomination co-ed college in Texas, reflecting the community's commitment to education and faith, that whole kind of theme that's been spread through those settlers coming in at that time. And so they had a very frontier self-reliance, ranching and land management skills is what they brought to the area, and the education system. Military skills were also a part of that, and Scottish celebrations. So today, Salado continues to celebrate its Scottish heritage with Scottish Gathering and Highland Games. It's been going on for, we just had their 64th year in November. It's Texas' oldest and largest festival of its kind. If you haven't gone up there, you need to dust off your kilt, your tartans, and go on up and experience that event. You can enjoy the stirring sound of the bagpipes, the Highland dancing, traditional athletic competitions like the caber toss, and where the original shot put event kind of happened. Through that, now it's the stone throwing and pole, lots of athletic things. There's a circuit of athletes that look for those type of games, events to participate in, and the hammer throw and the stone throw, all safe because it's in a protected area, but those athletes get to perform their skills. And it showcases also the attire, the traditions, offering an engaging experience that connects attendees to the enduring legacy of Scottish culture. And many come over from Scotland to experience it too. And one just commented recently, it made him feel like he was back in his homeland. So if you've not experienced that event, I highly encourage you to do so, and wear a tartan or something. There's even a Texas tartan if you want to find that, if you don't feel like you have Scottish roots somewhere there, but that's, just invite you to do that. All right, so now one of the things I want us to keep in mind as I talk about the settlers arrived along the routes, paths already existed as they were coming in, because there were other trails that were happening prior to that. The indigenous, the Camino was already kind of paved some paths. So, but now the trade routes that connected towns that were founded by some of these European settlers that I speak of, communities like Anderson, Round Rock, and Salado became important hubs, stopping spots where stagecoaches enabled commerce, communication, and the movement of people. The routes also helped shape settlement patterns and the regional growth to what we are today. And growth, boy, we have it, right? And have left a lasting legacy that travelers can still experience today if they know where to find it. And our team, and with your help, and those that work in our wonderful city to help to promote the special places that make our towns unique, that's really kind of a shout out to those that do that, because just even like the stagecoach that I'll talk about here in just a little bit. This brings our second part of the story, which is two-part, the routes and ruts and rest stops. So in this section, in the first section, I've talked about who came to Texas, and now I want to talk about how they moved through it, because settlers' stories don't stop at arrival. They continue along roads, trails, and stagecoach routes that connected people, goods, ideas, and cultures. Long before modern roads, indigenous paths, the Spanish Caminos, the military trails, carved routes through central Texas, the north-south route, and then also from the coast when they were coming by ship, or through New York and Pennsylvania down into Texas, whichever way. Those paths kind of led them to the frontier and markets for settlement and connection. So travelers, traders, and mail carriers relied on these lifelines, and later stagecoach lines followed the same paths Creek people, goods, and stories. And before railroad, stagecoach routes were how they moved through Texas. And sometimes it's kind of hard to remember that, except for if you go over to Brushy Creek and you can see the ruts and the limestone still today. So in Anderson, Texas, love this little place. If you've not been, I encourage you to make the drive over. It was a central hub in Texas during this time period. It served as the county seat, so Anderson is the county seat of Grimes County and a political center for governance and civic life. It was a legal hub for the courts and legal proceedings in that area and in Texas, and attracted residents from across the region and even historic figures like Sam Houston. So a vital stagecoach stop strategically located on the Houston to Interior route and not far from where Texas became Texas at Washington on the Brazos. So Anderson's location on the La Bahia Road made it ideal for travelers moving between Houston and interior settlements. At the heart of Anderson's role as stagecoach stop was the Fanthorpe Inn. The Fanthorpe Inn is now a state historic site, thankfully. It's going to be preserved for future generations. When hospitality was survival and strangers depended on one another to make it through the frontier. And a docent will tell you that a traveler could pay $1.50 to have their own room, or for a bargain price of 50 cents, they could sleep with strangers. So Sam Houston had his own room. I guess he had some thinking to do in the businesses that he was taking care of for Texas. And it's known that he, so if you go up the stairs in Fanthorpe Inn and you take a right and go all the way down the hallway, it's the last room on the left. So you'll want to go check it out. And but Fanthorpe Inn was more than lodging. It was a cultural crossroads where travelers exchanged news, culture, and ideas. And one of the things I love about it too, they celebrate Rachel and Henry Fanthorpe's wedding, courtship, and wedding all there in February. So this might be their 192nd or 193rd wedding anniversary this month. So they're going to have a celebration this weekend. So if you don't have anything going on, you can go over and experience, not for Rachel and Henry, but for somebody else historically featured up there. So, when you get there, you'll be greeted by hospitable docents telling the stories of the past, and you can experience. That's why I love to tell the travelers, especially with kids too. You can ride on a replica of a historic stagecoach, and they have those events throughout the year. So not many places you can still do that. So this is, here, I'll go on here, sorry about that. Here's Chandler. He is a site manager at Fanthorpe State Historic Site and Texas Brazos Trail Region board member, and continuing that tradition of Texas hospitality. And just so you know that the state has over 40, I want to say 42 historic sites, if I'm not mistaken, so that the state owns and or manages with a cooperation with communities or counties. So that's some fun stuff there, but go out and see Chandler. He will, and just tell him that we sent you. All right, so we have arrived in Round Rock. We're going to talk about the Heritage Stagecoach Inn. So by the mid-19th century, travelers leaving South Texas, heading north, often spent their first sight along Brushy Creek in what would become Round Rock. There's a sturdy limestone structure built in the 1850s. Many of you may know this already, but hopefully there might be a nugget in here you don't. And now known as the Heritage Stagecoach Inn, offered a hot meal, safety, and rest before the long journey ahead, either north or south, mostly north with the cattle drives that were happening. And the inn fed and housed travelers pressing deeper into the Texas frontier. For a stagecoach trip from the south to the north of Texas, it could take a week or longer. You know how that was, and we don't really kind of in our minds realize how long that might have taken since we have a different way of transportation these days. But the inn reflects the influence on the region's architecture, the regional craftsmanship from Swedish and other Anglo communities, and the blending of cultures along the travel route. So unlike many early inns that managed the Heritage Stagecoach Inn, it has endured, thankfully, through grassroots efforts and the city leaders that saw value in that part of our history. And its stone walls and wide porch are a tangible reminder of Round Rock's frontier beginnings, thankfully. Okay, so for generations, the inn has been part of the community's living memory and has been safely preserved. Judy Anderson, raise your hand if you know Judy Anderson. Many? Okay, she is the president of the Round Rock Preservation, and she's a jewel for the community. And you'll want to meet her, but she has close ties with this building. Judy Anderson recalls her parents' wedding there in 1942, and the inn's role during World War II as a gathering place for families of deployed soldiers. And I believe one of her family members was born in that building. So it also served as a hub for mail, community events, and celebrations, and hopefully will continue to be that. Even as it transitioned into a restaurant over the years, the inn remains a welcoming place for locals and visitors alike. So, and now we can still go and visit it today. Following careful restoration and relocation at the Chisholm Trail Crossing Park, if you haven't been there, and then continuing to the bridge where the Round Rock's Frontier Pass and has its vibrant presence diagonal from the Round Rock. So the Harris Stagecoach Inn invites travelers to experience history, community, and newly developed heritage trail and bathing beach restoration, all in its close proximity. So what a blessing that is for our community.
Excuse me, where is that located at right now?
So you cross over from here, you will cross over, it's on 620, cross over, take that exit right there and take a right. It's diagonal from the Round Rock, so you cross that Brushy Creek Bridge. There's now a pedestrian bridge that goes over. It's going to be right there on the left-hand side.
So I've passed it a million times and never realized it.
Right, so now you know and now you can go. Yes, absolutely. Great question. So,
Today it's more accessible from Memorial Park. There's construction going on today
Okay.
on the road itself, but soon that will be completed.
Yeah, so they're still continuing to work on that, but yeah, just if you go, just be safe and just know it's there, and it's part of that whole Heritage Trail and Bathing Beach history as well. So less than an hour, so I'm going to take us up the I-35 corridor. Imagine it as a dirt road or a gravel road, nestled among the limestone hills. Stands the Stagecoach Inn of Salado. You'll probably see the sign on the on I-35. One of Texas' oldest continuously operating inns. It was constructed in 1861 by W.B. Armstrong. The inn quickly became a hub for cattle drivers. It's probably the next stop for the cattle drivers and mail carriers and settlers traveling across central Texas. So this inn offered both protection and a warm welcome to those passing through on the frontier. So Salado thrived because it had a natural spring-fed, it was a river and now it's a creek. It's a natural spring-fed creek, part of the Edwards Aquifer, and it's cold all year long and clear. Hospitality set it apart, this inn, and strategic placement on the major north-south routes, it was the eastern cattle drive, it was kind of east of the Balcones Rift, basically, the geography in Texas. So local legend even says that Sam Houston, bringing him back into the fold, addressed town folks from the balcony, urging caution against secession on the eve of the Civil War. Visitors today can still imagine his booming voice from the balcony on Main Street. So for generations, the inn has been part of family memories. Michael Rhodes, here I'll switch, he's right there at the top. His family, right here, that's Mike right there. He is one of our task force members, but he was visiting in the 1980s with his family, which they did often. and just enjoy. He recalls summer spent swimming in the Salado Creek, ping pong, and enjoying the inn's charm and hospitality with his family. Now he's working together to help us, our team, to help to promote and continue sharing stories. He has another sister. That was his sister at the very top. And he was wondering where his other sister was. Well, he said, realized that she was actually taking the picture. So she's sad that she wasn't in the picture. So anyway, for generations, the inn has been a restaurant known for its hush puppies and classic Texas fare like tomato bisque. I don't know if they do the tomato bisque anymore, but they believe they still do the hush puppies, continue to welcome guests, stage travelers, experienced over 150 years ago. So be sure to make that a stop on your travel north. And through the clip-clop of horses that have been placed by the hum of modern traffic, Salado Stagecoach Inn on Main Street remains a rhythm all its own, unhurried, gracious, and timeless, inviting travelers to step back into history. A lot of times if people stop for coffee or the restroom, they'll go, what is all of this? It's a magic mile of Main Street there with the Stagecoach Inn. So still celebrated today, what unites all these stories, both the immigrant communities and the stagecoach routes. European settled communities didn't exist in isolation. They were connected by roads and trails, inns and meeting places, linked through trade and communication, spread beyond county boundaries by stagecoach routes. Across Texas, these stories are still celebrated through, as I shared with you some of those today, and they allow the travelers to stand even ride through the history's past. So I'm going to go back on one because I think for some reason it jumped around, or I jumped around on it. But I'll mention about one other, right there. So there we go on the Czech history. So that's another part of the Texas story is the Czechs that came in, and they were settled, what we know of, a kind of a collective community in the Caldwell area, Burleson County, and also in West, just north of Waco. So they settled near, and communities like Friendstadt and Birch were some of the ones that they settled. And again, they were seeking land and opportunity. It was founded in 1897. Well, actually what was founded is they started a Texas organization known as the Slavonic Benevolent Order of the State of Texas, for that just kind of bringing their heritage, their community together. And so, they still today celebrate polka and food and local traditions that we enjoy. I call them kolaches. They may not pronounce it quite that way, but that's my Texas way of saying kolache. And fun fact, one of the most visible and enduring European influences in Central Texas. So they still celebrate the festivals in both Caldwell and in West. And they've got, as you can see, the attire for the Czech. But what's really interesting, I'll talk a little bit more about it, is they're working in preserving their Czech language. So that's one of the things they do at the festival, is to have education on speaking the Czech language. So I think that's pretty cool, but there's still a lot of great sense of community pride on that heritage and the Moravian traditions. So heritage survives best when it's not, when it's lived, not just remembered. So that's why it's important to continue these celebrations, and I'm just pointing these ones out to you today. So I'm going to jump forward here to kind of finish up Anderson. Okay, so let's just make sure. So Texas isn't about memorizing dates, because I don't do that, as I said, and I'm not a really historian other than just by my passion for learning, and then when I learn, I share. But it's about standing in the places where the stories converge, and that's at the heart of what we do at the Texas Brazos Trail region. So connecting people to the places where Texas history is still visible, visitable, and alive. And I encourage you all to explore these communities, visit these inns, attend these festivals, and experience the layers of history that has shaped Central Texas in this way. So before I close, I just want to share some resources for you. I have some takeaways today. One of our collateral pieces started exactly about 10 years ago, was Authentic Texas. It's a publication that is solely devoted to Texas history. And so I've got some takeaways of that today, so please make sure and take a copy. And you can also, it's a quarterly publication, so you can subscribe and receive it regularly. And the couple of the ones I have on the history of Main Street, and then we just, hot off the press is the one on the history of lodging, including kind of what I've just covered today, the story of those 3 stagecoach inns that we want the traveler to get out and know more about. So the historic lodging issue is where kind of what I've talked with you today is splashed in. And then also the Texas Time Travel website that is owned and managed by the Texas Historical Commission and offered to the 10 Trail Regions program to use. And so we are about promoting events up there and sites. And so go and check that out at texasbrazzostrail.com. And that's where you can search for the sites, events, and if there's not one up there, you let our team know, and we want to get those up there. So we have heritage travel guides available for you to take away today, and that there's a map of Texas inside, a listing of all the state historic sites across the state, each of the 10 trail regions, and then communities that splash in. Maybe there's a heritage museum. So have one in your car. I have one in each of our car for our family. And if we're getting on the roadway, I'm like, what am I going to stop? What can we stop and see along the way? So one of the travel guides can help you to do that and know more about where to get out and see more of Texas. So, and then you can find us on social media through the Texas Brazos Trail. And if I can ask you today, and you're not social media, that's okay. But if you are, and you can like and follow and share, and you can also join us if you're passionate about preservation of history, telling the stories. You can join our partner program to be, and it's minimal cost for individuals. So if you're interested, take my card, send me an email. I can talk with you more about that. And I hope you are inspired or learned, for those avid historians, learned a little nugget or a place that you might want to visit or know more about, and you can do your own research. And just again want to thank the Round Rock Preservation for the opportunity to come and share, be with y'all today, and for the city and this beautiful facility here, the Baca Center. And I've spoken to this group before, but it's always a pleasure, and I'll be here for a little while, but I can open up for questions, or if we have some time, I'm not sure how much longer, but any questions. But just keep in mind, if you're asking me a question, I'm not a historian, so I may not know all the facts, but we can work together on finding that out. But I'll take any questions that you have. Yeah.
It may sound silly, but with the stagecoaches, why were they robbed? You saw in TV movies, westerns, the stagecoaches always robbed. What were they robbing? Was it just the travelers' personal items because they knew they had certain schedules that they would keep, and so they would steal from the travelers? I mean, where's one the mail?
And that is such a great question. The Williamson Museum had a state, well, I'll answer that by, that's a whole new topic that I'd love to cover. We have covered that in Authentic Texas as well, on just the outlaws and the, those that You know, it's, that's another part of the history story and all. Yeah. But one of the fun ones, and I remember an exhibit at the Williamson Museum where they had a stagecoach turned upside down just to keep them prisoner until they were, you know, the authorities came to get them. So that's, and I'd love to come back and share some stories on outlaws, you know, and even as a local preservationist, I'll be asked, like, they'll ask, well, why did a community name a street after an outlaw?
Yeah.
And you know, I'm like, well, that's a good question, but you know, it is part of our history, and we've got historic markers here in downtown, and it was part of the Texas story, and so not really sure, other than, you know, a lot of times, I know even gold was kind of, you know, the thought of gold being found, and maybe they were in search of kind of, you know, those, I don't know how successful all of them were, but we know there's some nuggets of history, and I'm happy to research that more and come back and talk, but that's a great question. Anyone want to answer if they know any more on?
Often they were carrying the money for big ranches for businesses. And of course, somebody told them that, you know, it was going to be on there.
So like if they were buying cattle somewhere, they would
Yeah.
travel by stagecoach. and
They couldn't
would-
transfer or go to the ATM, so they had to send it on some
Ah,
charge.
okay. Yeah, I kept thinking, you know, it's just travelers or goods, you know,
Yeah.
and supplies and the mail. I could think, but why would they put them on the stagecoach? I didn't know if it was because it was just, they had regular goings, you know, coming back and forth. And
And that's
so it was
possible.
just easy
Yeah.
pickings to go and steal whatever the travelers had. But thank you.
And one just never knows, that there's always, you know, some of those mischievous ones out there, and those that, yeah, somebody that has something that I don't, and all, but I kind of more in my mind just imagine, you know, the families that it, you know, transported, and the information that was being shared between, and that's how we communicated, by horseback and stagecoach, through mail travel back in the day. Now we call it snail mail. And we think like one day is, you know, mailing a letter and you get it in 1 or 2 days. It's a long time, but you know, back in that time it was a lot different. So, great question. Any other fun things or something, a history nugget that you want to share and just been biting at your tongue to, yeah.
On the map of the stagecoach routes, what would have been the route that a passenger from like Oklahoma or Kansas or Nebraska would have taken to get to Texas?
Yeah, so my familiarity with the stagecoach routes now, because they were all coming in through the ports of Texas, and so they were moving cattle up through. And my understanding is that the western cattle drive, so they were kind of coming up, and we'll show you that route, and then into Mexico. If you've ever seen the Lone Star, what is it, with in the 90s, Lonesome Dove, the western cattle drive and the Goodnight Loving trail, and then the eastern cattle drive that kind of went up and took the cattle all the way to Kansas, where rail was before it came to Texas.
Kansas City or Missouri?
Dodge City, Albany.
Yeah, I didn't see, I was thinking about Dodge City, but I don't see what would have gone there from that map.
Yeah, and some, well, you know, in Texas, we kind of distinguish it as the Chisholm Trail. That's kind of the eastern cattle drive. Some historians say Jesse Chisholm was more of a original tourism bureau, but he was more kind of in the North Oklahoma into Kansas place. I'm not sure, I wasn't here, but if he came down, but he got the distinction, you know, the trail named after him. So we could call it, I like to call it the Eastern Cattle Drive Trail, because I'm not sure. But when I was up in Wichita, they say Jesse Chisholm was here. That's Wichita, Kansas. Jesse Chisholm was here, and he was kind of more in that area of that. But yeah, so anyway, but at the time, that's why the cattle drives were moving through Texas, going north, And fun fact, one other fun fact, it's kind of a historic site, but not, it's a moving, the historic Longhorn herd. Those match the DNA of that Longhorn herd. There's probably a little over 200 of them. They're protected by the state, and they match the DNA of the Longhorns in Spain. So that's one of the things that they're historic in nature and preserved, and they're an incredible breed, very resilient to disease and ticks and that sort of thing, that the ticks bring diseases to the cattle. And so you can go out to Albany, Texas at Fort Griffin and you can go meet some of those Longhorns. We did that last spring break with our youngest son and meet those and the handler that's out there. But there's the historic Longhorn herd. And then in our historic lodging, there's also a story on a historic red wattle hog that is being raised outside of the Waco area. And I'm like, I didn't know anything about a red wattle historic hog, and now I know more than I ever thought I'd know. So please have some of the takeaways up here, and there's much more nuggets in there. We're the content getters, so if you have any good content ideas out there for stories for future, I'm sharing with Frank. One of the things as a Round Rock preservationist, we've recognized locally the Tonkawa tribe as a local legend through that program, and we're working with the tribe, and there will be a documentary coming out with them telling their story. Very excited about that, so hopefully Round Rock Preservation will have me back, and happy to talk more about that as a documentary is released later this year or if into 27. So thank you again, you all. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Pamela, for this outstanding presentation. Round Rock Preservation is very happy to present you the certificate of appreciation.
Y'all are so good.
I know. We need to read it. Pamela Anderson is recognized for her heritage preservation contributions to Central Texas. Her willingness to share her knowledge of stagecoach travel and its history with audiences throughout our area enriches residents' understanding of our ancestors' stories and their impact on our communities. Round Rock Preservation and the City of Round Rock Historic Preservation Office thank Pamela for bringing accounts of European migration and stagecoach history alive to our February 10th, 2026 Discovering Round Rock History program. How's that?
Oh, yeah, that's better.
Better?
Yeah.
I never did it right.
Ready, 1, 2, look this way, not the other way. There you go.